Welcome back. This is Lecture 5 of the Technology Supported Collaboration mini-course, Assessing Risk Factors for Your Team. So in this lecture, we're going to give you an assignment. But before we do, I wanted to ask Gary Olson here with me and one of the people behind the Collaboration Success Wizard to tell us a little bit about what this tool is. And then we'll explain to you how and when you're going to have the opportunity to use it with your team.
So a few years ago, we got very interested in now that we were sort of advancing in our understanding of what makes projects work or not work, we thought, if we should try to find some way to share these insights with people in a way that would be practical for them on their real projects. We had done some of this informally, but by consulting on projects and so on, but that doesn't scale very well. It's hard for us to cover lots and lots of projects. So we got a grant to build a thing we call the Collaboration Success Wizard. We actually got the name of the wizard name from the old television show Watch Mr. Wizard, a science demonstration show. That's kind of a funny name for the historical reasons. Anyway, what we did is take the 5 classes of factors that we described in an earlier lecture, and we developed questionnaire items for them and did a lot of, the usual testing you have to do. We started this at Michigan, where they have a very good survey research center, and began by, working on the language and so on, doing all the kind of testing you need to do to get items that sort of work. And we ended up with about, I think the full wizard has somewhere in the neighborhood of 45 or so questions, although there's a branching structure to it so that you may not see all the questions depending on how you answer certain ones. It's a web-based tool, so that you do it online, and then what you do is you go through and you answer these questions. They're always about a specific project, so it assesses a particular project, and in the case we're talking about with you, it would assess your project that you're going to be working on. You answer these questions with respect to that project, and then at the very end, and there's the slide actually, the thing in the center is an example of a question. They're usually kind of multiple choice questions, although every question also has a text box where you can write comments if you think of something that the question triggers in your mind but doesn't get at directly. And then when you finish, you have the option of requesting a report. And on the right side of the screen is a real page from a report. It took us some time to work on this to make sure that it kind of came out in kind of natural sounding language. But what the report does is it says, based on what you said on this survey, we think your project sounds pretty strong in the following ways. We think there might be some vulnerabilities in these areas, and for the vulnerabilities, we suggest things you could do, interventions you could take to do something about them. And so it gives you, now these are recommendations or assessments based on what you said. Now sometimes in a project, the different people involved will say different things. So at a project level, we then we do this manually rather than automatically. We roll up the responses of individuals in a project, and then we can create manually a report to the project about how they're doing. And we've done projects as large as several hundred people. That's quite a daunting task for us. But what we found is that the mere act of filling out the wizard has opened people's eyes about things they should think about. So it's actually the taking of the wizard is a kind of intervention in and of itself, even before you do get the report at the end. Because you say, oh, I never thought I should worry about this. And so that can be actually very useful. It comes in 3 flavors. It comes for projects that are being planned, so you haven't done the project yet, but you're thinking about doing it. There's a second version for projects that are kind of midway, and then another version for projects that are finished, to kind of do a last look back at the project and how it went. And one of the questions at the very end is, do you think this project is succeeding, or will succeed for the future version, is succeeding for the second and third versions? And we're very interested in looking at how responses correlate with those responses. That's actually a thing we're working on right now. But this is a tool we've administered now to probably close to 36 different projects, and I think our total enrollment of respondents is approaching 400. So it's people have found it to be very useful.
Well, and that's going to be your next step. You will receive approximately October 1st of this year an email at your UMN email address. If you haven't set up forwarding, check your mailbox there or set up the forwarding, inviting you to complete the pre-project version of the Wizard. What we've provided to Gary and his team is a list of email addresses to invite and the titles of each team's project, so that one of the things you'll have in there is the ability that they can later conduct research on how teams work together from your results. Each team member fills out the Wizard independently. Each team member gets this report, and then you should bring it together, discuss, share, identify potential challenges and risk factors as you go forward. You'll also receive up to 2 follow-up invitations, probably exactly 2, at mid and post-project. Your participation in all of this is encouraged. It is voluntary. This is a research project where you have to give your informed consent to be studied. But one of the things that we're hoping to learn from your participation is what led to successful projects. One of the things we're expecting you to get out of this is a more accurate sense of what you need to plan for and be ready for. And then in the second half of this mini course, you're going to be working on the plans to address many of those challenges that you feel are ones that your team needs to face as you put together your own communication covenant.
As I say, we have found that when we use this with real projects, is they do find it as a useful way to think about how they're going to handle it. We did one project group actually mainly at UC Irvine, but involving other people. They're putting in one of these great big center grants to NIH, and we gave them the Wizard during their proposal writing stage, and they actually wrote into their proposal to NIH that these experts on collaboration had assessed us, and here's what they found. They found the following strong points, which of course they like to point out, but they found the following areas of vulnerability, and here's what we plan to do about them. Well, they got their center funded. In fact, just this year they got it renewed for another 5 years. So that was an example where they took our feedback and worked it into their proposal, and it really helped their project a lot to have done that. So I think these things are meant to be a way of taking the lessons we've learned from nearly 25 years of research on this issue, and help you out by giving you a picture of where you stand and what you might need to work on.
So this actually marks the end of the first half of this mini course. When we come back, we're going to start looking at what we can do about it, starting with technology support for remote collaboration. This has been Lecture 5, Assessing Risk Factors for Your Team.